Welcome everybody. It's episode 411 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the Leandro Trossard of Irish MMA Media, Graeme McDonald, as we talk about a big week in the world of mixed martial arts. Before we get into all of that, I want to tell you that spring has sprung on our friends at Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming, have the best tools for your spring cleaning in your pants. Trust me, your confidence will be blooming like the flowers. Join the 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code SevereMMA to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. The way to go with Manscaped is the Performance Package 4.0. In the bundle, you get the lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the weed whacker for your ear and nose hair, and the crop preserver as well, the ball deodorant, crop reviver toner, as well as the boxer briefs and travel bag to hold them all. That lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer is brilliant. It uses our proprietary advanced skin safe technology. It's designed to trim hair on loose skin. And although your balls might look like punching bags, don't treat them like that. It's also waterproof, LED light, so you can use it in the dark, in the shower, whatever you like. Then the weed whacker for your nose and ear hair. No one has ever found hair in those places attractive. That also has the proprietary skin safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags and tugs in those delicate holes. Also, my favourite, the crop preserver, ball deodorant, crop reviver, ball toner, absolutely brilliant. Change your life, that deodorant will. Plus, you get the 2 free gifts, the boxer briefs and the shed travel bag as well. So always use the right tools for the job and head on over to their website and check out all the best tools to upgrade your hygiene routine. So save 20% and get free shipping with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. And also, we've exciting news because we have a new sponsor today, Calderalab. Say goodbye to the generic face wash on your counter because Calderalab is here to save the day when it comes to your skin, backed by a leading clinical trial where 9 out of 10 men experience healthier and visibly improved skin. Calderalab has the tools to unlock your best first impression and confidence. Today, we have an exclusive offer for our audience, so you can try it for yourself and see why so many men trust Calderalab for their skincare needs. Use the code SevereMMA at Calderalab for 20% off their best products. What an absolute deal. I actually got mine the other day. I know Graeme got his as well, and I've been using it, and I'll tell you what, I'm getting old and haggard now, and this stuff is absolutely fantastic. Creates high performance men's skincare products by combining pharmaceutical grade science along with nature's purest and most potent ingredients. Kicking off their stellar skincare selection, we have their regimen bundle, a twice a day routine to transform your skin. Inside the bundle, you'll find a clean slate, the Blaze Slayer, and the Good. The Clean Slate is where you start your day. It's a balancing cleanser that uses gentle plant-based cleansing. I can't speak anymore. Leaving all skin types exceptionally refreshed. The Base Layer is a nutrient-dense fortifying moisturizer that hydrates your skin and absorbs fat, leaving you with a matte finish so you can start your day confidently. And the Good is your go-to at night before bed, and a clinically proven multifunctional serum that helps your skin look even tighter and smoother, as well as help reduce the visibility of wrinkles and fine lines, which, you know, someone who's getting old like me needs. As you age, you might notice more fine lines, wrinkles, and signs of aging. This is the opposite of what every guy wants, and the more you neglect your skin, the more visible this could become over time. So now is the time to take control. Ready to take your skin to the next level with Calderalab? Look no further than the Icon. The rejuvenating eye serum is here to address 3 most common concerns around the eyes: fine lines, dark circles, and puffiness. Committed to transparency, sustainability, excellence, Calderalab is on a mission to better men's skincare around the world, priding itself on clean ingredients and doing right by their customers and the planet we live in. Calderalab is a certified B Corporation, as well as a member of the 1% for the planet. Through uncompromising craftsmanship, exceptional ingredients, and rigorous transparency, Calderalab is here to upgrade your skin and confidence. So get 20% with the code SevereMMA at calderalab.com, CALDERALAB.com. That's 20% off at calderalab.com by using the code SevereMMA. Unlock your youthful glow and be ready for your summer with Calderalab. Right, Graeme, do you know what? We'll get into it. We'll get right to the top of UFC 287 because That is that's the biggest talking point, I suppose, from the weekend. It was a very interesting build-up, I thought, to the fight itself from a technical point of view, because I think a lot of people made the same call on it. It was like, if Adesanya can maybe get over the mental demons he had the last time and produce a similar sort of fight, he can win. It'll be hard, I suppose, for Pereira to catch up with him, but we also kind of thought, like, Pereira does have 6 months to improve as an MMA fighter that only had 8 fights coming into last night. And do you know what? I think both of those things proved to be true. I think Pereira both improved, and I think Adesanya both came over the mental hurdle. So it was one of those fights where after I was thinking, like, this is a fight where both guys showed up and produced their best, and the result ended the way it did. But like some fights we don't have that. Like even the Edwards versus Usman fight from a few weeks ago, it just felt a little bit like Edwards went to like a completely different level and Usman maybe fell a level. And like even if Usman had stayed the level, maybe Edwards would have had enough. But it's, you know, it's one of those that I think it was John Anik was saying it about how and I think he was quoting your man, that boxing trainer whose name I can't remember, we're firemen, that lad, what's his name, Teddy Atlas, where they said when you become a champion,
30% better,
you get 20% better, whatever that is. And you know, I don't know if maybe that they might have been true with Edwards. I thought Pereira was a way better as well, but Adesanya did turn on. I think, look, it's a very intricate and interesting fight to break down, but the point I would kind of make on it afterwards is, it's MMA, really, isn't it? And anything can happen in MMA. You make one slip, you make one move, or you throw one amazingly well-timed punch, and this can happen, especially when you're a big hitter like Adesanya or a big hitter like Pereira, as we saw the last time. And we've
seen it happen in reverse a few times between these guys, between kickboxing and MMA. So
it's the joy of the sport, really, isn't it? And you love it, because like as much as we can break it down coming into it, like I was actually, funnily enough, I was listening to a podcast last night to go to sleep. I did. Who was that? It was Meltzer's, I think, and it was from like Friday, and they were talking about the fight as I was kind of just falling asleep, and he goes, "Look, if the fight is won by Adesanya, it'll probably be by decision. If it's won by Pereira, it'll probably be by knockout." I think most people probably would have agreed with that, and then the opposite kind of happened. So just never.
I thought Adesanya would win by decision. I thought he'd be like super kind of reluctant to get in exchanges, but you know, we've seen him do that a lot of times, and you've criticized him for that in the past. And you know, against a top striker like Pereira, who's finished him before, you know, you could easily forgive him for doing that, but he went there to kind of prove a point. And you know, the pressure really was on. You know, are you as good as people said you were, and can you make it back to the top, and has this guy got your number, and you know, has time passed you by at the very top level? And you know, these fights, as you said, one little thing in a fight like this where both guys are so technically sound on the feet and can throw with such power, even though Adesanya doesn't actually usually commit with that much power, you know, he always has that in his locker. And you know, Pereira, he throws with ill intent every strike, and it was just I actually loved this fight. It was actually phenomenal. Like, you know, I sometimes I can kind of be a bit worn down by watching so many fights, but this one got me really excited, and the finish is just absolutely phenomenal, and it really, like, you know, made me shout out, which is rare these days. Me too. It was one of those ones last night. You know, we, after every event, we add in like the awards. We've started doing it this year anyway. We've been 4 months so far. We've done a great job of keeping it going, but we added in obviously like knockout of the year contender, and I added in comeback of the year contender as well. You could talk about, you know, comeback in the career, but also kind of come back in the fight a little bit as well. But also I haven't added it in, but as you were talking there, and I was thinking myself last night, and I didn't know if someone would agree with me, but I think this is a fight of the year contender. I enjoyed it as much as you. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. For me, like, loads of things go into fight of the year contenders and things like that, and the jeopardy and the rivalry and the importance and the technical level of ability in there as well on the feet. Like, you know, that all plays into it. Like, for some people, maybe it doesn't. Maybe this fight of the year is like whatever one's the most exciting, like Rock'em Sock'em Robots or whatever. But for me, this is 100% definitely probably the leading contender at the moment. And it's been some good fights. I would tend to agree. Let's talk about the fight itself, and let's kind of break it down, I suppose. I was interested to see all three judges score the first round for Adesanya.
I thought Pereira won it, but it was a very close round. It was barely, but I just thought his leg kicks
I just sorry to interrupt you again, but I think the commentary underselling some of Adesanya's shots. There was like a couple of really nice, especially one really nice kick to the body that seemed to like change the positioning of Alex Pereira's hand positioning for a while after that. Like, and that was just kind of no sold by the commentators, and I think that maybe played into it a little bit as well. But I haven't actually watched that round back, but that obviously was a super close round, and I actually thought, I was thinking to myself, oh, that was a huge kick to the body at one stage, and there was a couple of other bits of body work that were really nice as well. But the commentators seemed to be all on the side of talking about how powerful Pereira's strikes were.
Yeah, and I think they did that a little bit in the first one. I think it was the opposite in the second. Now, throughout the night, I thought the commentary was awful, like especially the Masvidal fight. When you get into that in a minute, but yeah, it's just Rogan and
oh no,
yeah, oh no, I couldn't. I'm so glad you brought that up. I would have forgotten that. Oh my god, it was ridiculous. But anyway, we will get back into that in a second. But I thought it was interesting to analyze this fight, right? Because I think Adesanya did attempt to fight a safer brand of fight, as we kind of talked about in the lead up to it. Now, the good parts he had in the first fight, that saw him winning the first 4 rounds, or did he win all 4 of them, 3 of the 4, whichever, he was way ahead anyway. It was kind of that 1-2s down the middle. It was that straight right that kept hitting Pereira, and he did land it a couple of times, especially in the second round, but a couple of times in the first round as well. But here, I did think he was trying to fight a safer sort of game, trying to kick a bit from the outside. You saw him kicking the legs as well in the first round, and trying to kind of maybe pivot and circle off a little bit. But I think the Pereira leg kicks really kind of had to force him to change. And he did change, and I think obviously we know how it ended, but it was very interesting that Adesanya had the read that Adesanya normally does have to make it kind of risk averse, but Pereira stopped that, so he kind of forced Adesanya to fight him. And I honestly think that Adesanya, he is so unbelievably talented that it and this is a weird thing to say, but it takes someone very good to actually bring out that talent. He's almost a reluctant, brilliant fighter. You know, when he fights, we all remember the Gastelum fight where Gastelum was at his best, and he was pretty good last night as well too, but it brought out the best of Adesanya. Look, when he fought Whitaker, brought out the best of him. And it just feels like he needs that. There's been other fighters like that, and there's some teams like that in all sorts of sports like that they rise to the occasion when they fight the best. But it's not only about rising to the occasion necessarily, but it's actually being put in a position where you're kind of forced to do it, and then you do it. Like, there's a difference between that, I think, and what happened in the 5th round the last time, because it actually wasn't even necessarily that in the 5th round the last time. I think it was just like a massive mental lapse. But when you actually have maybe he had too much time to think about it in the last fight, where he'd maybe no time to think about it in this fight, and he rose a level because he started doing better. No, the second round I thought was very interesting, and it was kind of a pity it didn't go to the end of the round, so I could have seen the scoring, because Adesanya, I don't know the numbers, maybe you could pull them up there, Graeme, but I would say he landed way more strikes than Pereira, but the pop that Pereira's strikes had was just so much more than Adesanya. It was amazing. It was insane, because I'm thinking there, like, Adesanya's picking on him, and it's kind of a pity as well the fight didn't go a little bit further, because so he could have seen what happened, because Adesanya was working the body so well. He was kicking the legs as well. And if that had gone to the 3rd, 4th round, like, would it have taken the air out of Pereira? Would it have taken the legs away from him? Whereas Pereira was landing big shots. Like, can Adesanya hold up to those shots? Can he hold up to those leg kicks? I think it would have turned into a real war of attrition, but it didn't do that. And obviously what we saw was Pereira hitting Adesanya, hurting him, kicking those legs, pushing him back. And the difference between this fight and the last fight, and the losing of the last fight for Adesanya, was the winning of this fight for Adesanya. Because the last fight, when he was pushed against the cage, he lost. He had a mental lapse. He stopped doing what made him dominate the first few rounds in that fight, and that was fighting out from the cage, right? 100% the reason why he lost the first fight is he stopped fighting from the cage, Pereira's able to put him up against the cage, landed loads of shots and finished him. This time, Pereira hurt him, put him up against the cage, and what did Adesanya do? He fought out from the cage and landed that big right hand, another right hand, put him down hammer fist, and that was all she wrote. It was... I think Pereira was like a little bit ahead in the first round. I think Adesanya was probably a little bit ahead in the second round, although long term I'm not sure. But then it just all turned on that. It was just, Adesanya's vulnerability gave him the chance. It was the fact that he was in that position where he lost the fight the last time, and it was almost
after eating a leg kick and kind of stumbling like had happened in the first fight as well.
It was the vulnerability gave him the opportunity. It was absolutely unbelievable, and a credit. Like I've never really criticized Adesanya for like not having the ability to do this before. In fact, the exact opposite. But I have criticized him for maybe being a little bit more tentative. But it's almost with Adesanya is you want him to do more. You want him to produce more. And this is exactly why. Because he can do it. He can do it so well. When he is put at it, when he is forced to do it, he can absolutely fucking do it. And this was brilliant. How did you see the fight? Did you see it as kind of even as me, or did you see... I know I saw some people saying that like Adesanya was kind of ahead and he was kind of winning the fight throughout it. I didn't necessarily see it that way.
Yeah, well, like I thought the first round was very close, and in my mind, I was thinking about the effect of that body kick at the end, but I probably just gave it to Pereira. But yeah, like I'd have to go back and watch it. It was very close, and as you mentioned there, you kind of talked about there. It was 29 significant strikes to 26 the second round as long as it went.
I suppose a few of them, Pereira did land like probably 10 of them in the last 10 seconds before getting knocked out.
Significant strikes is like kind of any kind of strike really, like, it's kind of not really a good indicator, but the finishing sequence from Adesanya was absolutely beautiful, and like, I love a good coffin nail, and that was thrown with precision and venom, and he wanted to throw more, but the ref was in there quick in fairness to him. I'd say if the ref had been on the other side of the cage, he probably would have got a few more coffin nails in there, so fair play to the ref being on top of that, because that could have you got to make sure you finish the fight, but you don't want a guy unconscious taking too many shots either at the same time. So yeah, good referee in there, and absolutely phenomenal from Adesanya, because it did look like the tide had turned against him. He said he was playing possum, but I do think that leg kick hurt him, and he did try to get up against the cage to recoup for a minute, I think. And although I think the commentary were going a bit overboard, I don't think he took anything too crazy, and I think Pereira's like, he stands with his hands kind of wide or something like I don't know. He's obviously a way better kickboxer than me, and he's got a way better record than nearly everybody else. So he's doing something right, and it's very hard to capitalize on his unorthodox kind of hand positioning. But I think it actually went against him here, and Adesanya took advantage of it brilliantly, and he seized the moment brilliantly, and you could see how much it meant to him. Like phenomenal scenes in the cage afterwards, and great work on the microphone. And it did seem like a huge moment, and the biggest moment of his career. And even though there's been obviously some very big moments, being on top for so long. Yeah,
I thought it was great to see, although I know you probably flew to America to see that one, but or to hear it, and we had to listen to it here, but it was it was one of those post-fight speeches that you listen to and you're like, it's so great. And he said to himself, I wish everyone can kind of experience what I've experienced here one time in their life. And it was great, because like, I think we can all see that in Adesanya. Like, I think there's a lot of people, and like, I'm not necessarily his biggest fan in the way he acts stuff, and even the thing with your man's son last night was a bit weird, and he's very kind of cringy, but I damn well respect him.
I enjoyed the fake knocked out thing, because it's been brought up to him a few times, and I love the bow and arrows as well. That was absolutely phenomenal. I loved all that. The WWE's been we didn't even talk about this yet, but he's lining himself up for a future career.
I didn't mind the bow and arrow stuff so much because like Pereira does that, right? And if that's fair game, if you do it, someone else does it. But like pointing at someone's son after their father has been knocked out viciously and then doing that, like the son, the time when he did it, he was like fucking 6 years old, like. And if, to be fair, Adesanya did admit he was petty and all, but like this, you know,
to be honest, like if that's how he feels, then fair play to him, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not criticizing him too much, but yeah, he's just. But like, I think. The one thing about like Adesanya is a little bit like Colby or some other lads. I know a lot of people like don't like the antics or don't like the persona. I think it's, you know, a lot of people think it's very put on. But as a fighter, like same with Henry Cejudo is another good example. Like this kind of put on persona or like a weirdo persona or whatever. But once they fight, you have to respect that. You have to respect it. And Adesanya is one of those lads that if he hadn't have won that fight last night, there probably would have been a few sticks to beat him. Like there still are a few sticks to beat him with some of the performances he has had. But you know, these, and I composed a tweet about it, and I agree as well. Like the kickboxing things don't really play into it. Like that's not MMA. It's completely different. You know, they're 1-1 now. It's
psychologically
even, like,
and thing. It may play into
psychologically,
it,
yeah, 100%. But as like, you know, when you're looking back at Adesanya's career as an MMA fighter, you're not looking at some random kickboxing matches from fucking a decade ago. Like, but
yeah. I don't like the way sometimes grappling matches and kickboxing records are like mixed in with the MMA records on Topology. And
that's why Sherdog is the best.
Sherdog, you know, you need to keep it like Sherdog.
100%.
The original.
Yeah, that's 100%. Couldn't agree more. So it's 1-1, and everyone seemed to dismiss the trilogy straight away afterwards. And
why? I saw that.
I
was like, oh my God, I can't wait. But then I saw people being like, no, please, no, please, no. It's just like, well, you want to like Adesanya to fight the guys he's already fought? I don't know.
Drickus du Plessis, is that what you want to see?
Dana White's like, he's heading up to 205. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It was very strange reactions. I don't know. For me, you know, that was phenomenal. This story is phenomenal. The rivalry is phenomenal. This is like what makes careers, these kind of, you know, back and forths and rivalries and things like that. And if you don't make it now, you know, it's MMA, anything can happen and you might not get another chance. And yeah, for me, I'd love to see this again.
You have to make it again. You simply have to. You're in middleweight, right? Fucking Drickus du Plessis is the next guy going. Okay, Shimaev who would be a good option, of course, but it just feels to me like the UFC want Adesanya as champion, and they probably want to make the Shimaev fight as well, which is grand, and I would love to see that fight, absolutely. But you have to make this trilogy. Like, this is not over. This is not settled. They're 1-1 now in MMA. And okay, look, if you want to put in the whole kickboxing stuff, the guy who has the belt now lost to the other lad twice in kickboxing. So like, I think he deserves it a little bit. Adesanya saying, oh, he needs to work his way back. It's like, fuck that. You got an immediate rematch and he knocked you out. He should get the same thing against you. Like, it's just massive. Like, this is a massive fight and a massive trilogy, because you know the mad thing about it, right? Either of them could get knocked out. Like, the first fight, right? Adesanya almost knocked him out. Adesanya was on his way to win and lost. In the second fight, Pereira was possibly on his way to win, like hit him with a load of big shots and then lost. It's like these it's just the most exciting fight.
And they're really exciting, like, you know, high level technical striking bouts, and that's what the majority of people seem to want usually. So I don't understand the logic of we don't want to see this. It's
something we don't really have as much in MMA anymore. It's like genuine rivals with like a very similar skill set who go into the fights knowing that like you can't do the thing that makes you elite against everyone else in an easy fashion against this guy. It's like let's say if Habib went in there and some like unbelievable American wrestler was 20-0 at lightweight and he fought him, like, you couldn't do the same things you do to a Poirier or to a Conor, whoever, against that guy. It's the same thing here, and it's just I honestly it baffled me to hear Dana White, to hear Adesanya and all, like, just quickly moving away from this trilogy. You have to fucking make it. There's no fight in the UFC right now that makes as much sense as this trilogy. Oh my God, I think it would be, to steal a phrase from my guy Luke, promotional malpractice if they didn't make this. It would be absolutely ridiculous. But look, and for every reason, it makes sense. The fight's going to be amazing. Although, like, and the thing about it, right?
I'd say the numbers were. I don't know what the numbers are. Like, we don't really know anymore. But I'd say the numbers were pretty
and they
good.
Would
They're
be
very
big.
good.
They would be big for the next one because, like, it's so easy. You show one guy not getting knocked out. You show the other guy getting knocked out. Who the fuck is going to get knocked out this time? People are not the brightest. Like, you know, people that are simple. If you show him one guy getting knocked out, you show him another guy getting knocked out and go, like, that guy is fighting that guy again. Who the fuck's going to get knocked out this time? That's how you get $100 fucking off people. Like, you know, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And I don't know. Honestly, I think MMA fans will love it. I think everyone... I saw a few people say, "Oh, you know, move on." It doesn't matter. Like, fuck off with that shit. And I'm not. I
don't think it was just a few people. I saw a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people. I couldn't believe it. And I'm not all for immediate rematches whatsoever. But when it's 1-1 and it's 2 knockouts and it's 2 epic fights, you just have to do it. You have to do it. But anyway,
like if Chimaev had like gone through like 3 opponents recently, and okay, maybe there's an argument, but Robert Whittaker again, fair enough. Like, it's a good fight, but I don't think it's going to be the same, anywhere near the same interest as this rematch would be. Vettori, Cannonier, Paulo Costa, Duplessis, Strickland. These are the guys that are ranked in the top 10, and yeah, it's a no-brainer for me as well.
Make Whittaker versus Chimaev on the same card as the trilogy. Easy. You have the next contender already decided and all by the time the main event even starts. Perfect. Or even put it on the McGregor card against Chandler. Imagine that. Imagine the amount of fucking pay-per-views that'd sell. That'd be absolutely huge. That's what they need to do. Let's do it. Anyway, any final thoughts on that, Graeme? Because, like, I was so fucking excited. Because this wasn't the best card in the world. It was an alright card. And it needed the main event to deliver, and by God did it deliver. It was absolutely epic, but it was one we won't forget in a while. I think it was Nolan King saw that was like a moment in history we'll kind of always remember, and I would agree with him. I would absolutely agree with him. And I think a massive thing as well for Adesanya's career, because I remember we spoke about before the first Pereira fight, that like Adesanya was a budding star, but had some of his performances had kind of held him back from becoming an even bigger star. This performance, coupled with the loss that came before it, will actually make him bigger. Like, look at McGregor, his loss to Diaz, and then coming back and beating Diaz, and obviously winning the second belt and all after that. It made him bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That can be the same for Adesanya.
I think you like, even at the time when you were kind of criticizing him or whatever, you were saying that, like, because he has so much talent and 100%. Is able to do so much, that it's disappointing that he doesn't let it go. We've seen it. We talked about it like over the years. I've made this point before. GSP, these other guys were exciting finishers, and then they start fighting 5 rounds, start fighting the top guys, and they just play it safer. They don't want to take damage. They don't want to risk anything. Like, Adesanya can spar most of these guys for 5 rounds and win a handy decision. Off he goes with a big check and his belt. So it kind of makes sense. But from a entertainment point of view, you and a lot of people were, and me included, wanted to see him fight on the front foot more, take it to the opponent more, and he did that in this fight, and knocked out the biggest test that he's probably ever going to have on the feet in the UFC, in that division anyway. Even when he lost at 205, I think I don't know, I think if he had went out there with the attitude he went out against Pereira, he would have been the double champion. And maybe he realizes that now and will go forward against other contenders that aren't Pereira, fighting kind of risk averse, like he has over the years. But hopefully he won't, and hopefully he'll keep going at it, trying to make things happen instead of waiting and kind of sparring. So maybe it's just a game plan thing and a matchup thing that he decided to do this against Bahia, and he will go back to it. Hopefully not. So time will tell with that. But yeah, I think going back to it, I think Adesanya versus Bahia. If you can say, oh, you always have it in the back pocket, but you don't know what's going to happen. Look at we said with Conor and Diaz, we always have it in the back pocket, and then we don't have it in the back pocket anymore. Like, Diaz is gone, so you gotta make it while you can, and I don't see any like, you know, you're not shunning anybody who deserves it so much to make this rematch. And Adesanya's already beaten all the contenders, most of the contenders anyway. So yeah, I really want to see this again. I can't understand Dana and some of the reaction.
I could not agree more, 100%. Like, okay, Chimaev is the only one, but like, Chimaev hasn't like massively earned it at middleweight, so I have no problem with that.
He did when he came in at welterweight when he first came into the UFC. If he'd done that at middleweight recently, then okay, fair enough. Like,
if you did Gilbert Burns like win at middleweight, I'd say absolutely, but him versus Whitaker, I've been saying that for a year. That's the fucking fight to make. Let's make that fight because you beat him. Imagine how big Chimaev versus either Adesanya or Pereira is going to be then if they were to fight again. Be absolutely huge. And like the thing about that is as well, right? You
look back in history, like fans who come along or when we're watching documentaries, they'll be like, what the fuck happened? Why didn't they settle this? One each. It was like this huge thing, and what happened?
100%. You have to. This is not settled. Like, this is absolutely not settled. This rivalry is still open, and to leave it like this would be the ultimate fucking blue balls for fight fans. I think it'd be massive. Like, but the thing is, all right. You said about Adesanya there about maybe this will force him to kind of change and open up a little bit more against other contenders, right? And I'm skeptical about that. We'll see. But also, right, if they make the Pereira fight for the next fight, it showed last night he can't do that. He can't do that against Pereira. Pereira won't allow him. If he fights Chimaev after that, let's say he wins, he can't do that against Chimaev either because we know Chimaev won't let him do that. So you have a fucking year and a half probably of amazing Adesanya fights right in front of you. And he'll either lose one or lose two, or he'll become lose one. You're not going to lose two, or else become like the biggest star in the sport. And like, why would you turn that down? Like, or else,
and even for Chimaev, he'd probably be happy enough to wait and hope that Pereira wins, and then he has like a massive grappling advantage. Yeah,
well, yeah, that's true as well. Although he'll probably have that against Adesanya as well. But we'll see. I think they'd be fools to turn that down. Now, okay, if Pereira can't make weight, no problem, go to 205. But he made weight. He's massive, but he didn't look fucking horrendous on the scale or anything, you know. So I don't know. Anyway, we'll move on because we could spend all day on that fight, and what a fight. Actually, if you have any questions or anything coming out of that, there's a post up on Patreon right now, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. I will be doing the Q&A. It'll be out on Wednesday. So I'll be able to be recording it Monday night. So if you're listening to this anytime before Monday, feel free to throw questions there or at SevereMMA pod over on Twitter as well. And I will answer them on the Q&A. Graeme, Burns versus Masvidal. I was very disappointed with this fight, if I'm going to be honest. And mostly from Burns' part. I think Masvidal probably fought as well as he could have. Burns was very tentative, did very little in the first round. The second round, he kind of... he did a little bit more, obviously. He came out and he was on top. Didn't do much, but won it. The third round, okay, he did a lot better. He rocked Masvidal at one stage. He,
the third round, he beat the piss out of him.
Beat the shit out of him, yeah. I gave it a 10-8. I thought he almost finished him 2 or 3 times in it. And then Joe Rogan was like,
I had picked the third round TKO as my pick, and I was like, this is fucking money. And then it's just one big right choice punch away from it, like at all times.
What did you think of the fight overall? Like, I just couldn't believe, like, we talked briefly about the commentary, like, but I could not believe how atrocious the commentary was in this, like with Joe Rogan.
What you're going to say is like Burns looked, I don't know if you agree with this, Burns looked sloppy at times, and while he was looking sloppy, they were talking about how fast he was. I was kind of like, okay, yeah.
It was weird.
And then the bias of Joe Rogan, like when Burns
cheering on.
Down, oh no!
They're worse than the rest in the Liverpool game. Fuck's sake. Elbow fucking Robertson in the face and all, like
that was ridiculous. Oh my god, what the fuck? I've never seen anything like that. Like, that's ridiculous.
But that was Joe Rogan. If Joe Rogan could have Gilbert Melendez in the face, he would have done it. I think for Gilbert Melendez,
like in pro wrestling, to distract the ref by like shouting, throwing something into the ring.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, but all in all, like, it was not a classic fight by any means. Masvidal retired afterwards. Looking forward to his next one.
I think he's definitely going to fight again. you know, it wasn't as if like he fought like way under his ability. Like I saw people saying, "Oh, he's finished" and stuff, but I think like he's just, I think he's overrated.
Massive.
By a lot of people. I think we've been saying this for years, but I think he's never been as good as people thought he was. And this is kind of the level he's been at. And he's a hard guy to finish, but he's probably going to lose a decision against anybody near the upper echelon or in the upper echelon. And it's been like that for a lot of years. You know, the Ben Askren obviously was a big rivalry, and that means more, like kind of like we were talking about earlier. And people remember that, and that's a huge moment in time, and people will talk about that and stuff like that. So, you know, he's had a pretty good career, but at very top level guys, I don't think he's ever been there. But, you know, if this is a career, he's had a pretty good career. And, you know, as I mentioned, that's a huge moment that people will remember. And he's been in some good scraps. He's always, like, you know, he's always been entertaining for the majority of his fights anyway. So if that is a career, which I doubt it is, it's been a pretty good one that people will remember. And people will probably remember a little bit maybe better than it probably was, unfortunately. Like, you know, and not me being a dick or anything, but that's how I see it.
I'm one of those dickheads, and I'll agree with you, to be honest, because like it's weird because you have to give Masvidal credit for that amazing year he had, right, where he knocked out Till, he knocked out Askren, and I always forget the other one. Who's the Diaz in the BMF title fight? He had an unbelievable year. Like, to think about it though, right? He beat 3 guys on his level. If we're being honest, like Till, not that good. Ben Askren, like, absolutely terrible. And Diaz, a good fighter, like, on Masvidal's level, a good war. And he was, at that time, Masvidal was at the peak of his powers. He was at the best. He was at the, you know, the most destructive, I suppose, of his career, and did very well. And he earned a lot of money out of that, and ended up getting himself a couple of title shots out of that. And I could not be happy for him. Like, I couldn't, like, every fighter, I wish they had that. Like, every kind of, you know, middle of the road journeyman fighter like a Masvidal, like when Bisping kind of went and he won the title, it was brilliant to see it. Like, Bisping was a higher level fighter than Masvidal in terms of fighting in the division up high for a long time, but I would love to, like, I'd love to see a Rob Font be able to do that. I'd love to see a Ponzinibbio be able to do that, but they won't. You know, we know that. But for Masvidal to be able to do it, I'm absolutely delighted for him. But we also can't deny that, like, he was not a great, like, Masvidal is not a Hall of Famer. He's not an all-time great MMA fighter. Like, do you see Rogan there recently? And I actually haven't seen the clip yet now, so I probably shouldn't be saying it. But Rogan was talking about, like, oh, if the likes of Masvidal was around in GSP's time, that he probably would have been a champion. Like, what are you fucking on? But anyway, I've purposely not watched that.
It's like you, and Joe Rogan's like you, Sean. If you say nice things about him and have a good relationship with him, he just says you're great.
Wow, who's that with me? Who is it?
I don't know. I can't even remember off the top of my head.
Are you going to say all the judges?
I'm only taking the piss. Yeah, I think, you know, to be fair to Masvidal, he's had, like, you know, some entertaining build-ups to fights. He's had an entertaining career, even those, you know, before he came into the big shows, like before the UFC and things like that, the backyard fighting and things like that. You know, people are into that stuff. People love Kimbo for that stuff as well. So he's been a very entertaining fighter to a lot of people. Even the Kobe Covington, you know, friendship gone wrong, and obviously the Askren thing we talked about. He's had some, you know, and title shots he's had. He's got you know, a pretty good career behind him. If this is if this is the end and he doesn't fight like within the next year, which he probably will.
Looking forward to his next one. He also has his own promotion now, so he'll probably end up fighting for them maybe if the UFC let him out, or if he's
probably be out of business in like a year anyway. So.
Probably, yeah. But to see what he's paying, he's
hashtag like, MMA organization.
He paid Anthony Pettis like $250,000 or something like that to box Roy Jones Jr. Okay, fair play to you.
Was it pay-per-view or what was it?
I think so. I think it was on UFC Fight Pass pay-per-view. I think, I don't know how that works, but. Yeah, Jesus.
I don't know how many people bought that, but
that's going to be a rough one there, alright. Poor old lad. But look, Burns moves on. Dana White has allowed Burns to be the backup fighter for Covington versus Edwards.
Burns' post-one interview, did I mishear him, or would he say, you know me, Joe, whoever they say, they ring me to say fight, I'll fight anybody, isn't that right, Joe? Joe's like, yeah, and he's like, okay, so yeah, I'm not fighting anybody else unless it's for the title. What the fuck? He just said the exact opposite things in the same breath.
I didn't actually catch that, but I think it sounds right.
Even like got Joe to say yeah and all, like, yeah, you always take the fights whatever they offer you, and then straight away afterwards he's like, oh, get the mic back over here, I'm not fighting anybody unless it's for the title.
Remember the way I used to be? I'm not like that anymore. Fuck that, like, I dragged that out for long enough. Fuck that. But yeah, it should be fun. Like, poor old Bilal Muhammad, just like trying to make himself relevant, sitting in the front row wearing a Colby Covington t-shirt, and now there's 3 lads in front of him for the title. It's like, poor old Bilal. I feel sorry for him, like, because he probably should be getting it, but yeah, poor old Bilal. Anyway,
he can hold on to the hope that he can follow in Leon's footsteps of getting out of purgatory.
Maybe, yeah, he probably not, but we'll see on that one. Rob Font and Adrian Yanez then.
This was a fucking great fight.
Great fight altogether.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Like, watching Yanez coming in, we were doing the preview show, and I was like, Adrian Yanez to me is one of those lads where I know Yanez, but I need to go back and watch a couple of fights. In the middle of the preview show, I was watching, I was like, geez, this lad's a destroyer. Like, he loves throwing those shots right down the middle, and do you know the kind of inside hooks where he kind of, they're not wide hooks, they're like short hooks or something like that, but he throws a lot of them inside and he makes you fucking pay with him. But Font just beat him to like the middle area, I thought, a lot, and I thought the commentary was hilarious as well. The Rob Font, his patented jab is like, what are you talking about? No one else jabs apart from Rob Font. He's patented the jab, Rob Font.
In fairness, actually, I do think there was one fight years ago where Rob Font actually had a jabbing masterclass. So
yeah, he is a very good jabber, to be fair.
Like, I think they're actually probably, that's where that comment came from. Yeah. They were probably watching back that fight, so like in preparation or something, because I do seem to remember, but like, you know, Yanez, obviously, I actually picked him to win. It was obviously a big step up against Rob Font, but they both went for it, and you know, you could see the damage in the short time on Rob Font's face. He took a few shots, and he took them really well, and he threw his own back. And you know, in fairness to Yanez, he did his best to try and survive, and he tried to throw back, and he tried to survive. But Rob Font picked his moments really, really well and showed his experience. And you know, I wouldn't rule out Yanez going forward, though. I think he still 100%. Could have a really big future. I
couldn't agree more. It was brilliant. It was really one of those performances, I think, from Rob Font, is like, this young lad is not fucking taking my spot. Like, I'm not prepared to move to be replaced by this guy. And it was brilliant, honestly. And I would tend to agree with you as well. I think Yanez will be back. He's a talented guy and a fun guy as well. I'm looking forward to his next one. Holland and Ponzinibbio was, you know, it was all right. It was a very good finish. I thought Holland won the first. Ponzinibbio was nothing on time in the first. It felt like everything was kind of whiffing past Holland a little bit. Round 2, Ponzi was better, landing some leg kicks. He was smashing the legs again in round 3. But it was one of those fights where I'm just looking at both of these lads. I'm thinking, like, Holland, I think a lot of people thought he could reach a certain level a few years ago, and Ponzinibbio definitely could have, but that injury, and he's definitely improved a little bit since he came back from the injury. I think he got knocked out in his first fight back, and he's been bit by bit improving, but I just think he's not the same anymore. He's not that explosive athlete he once was, and I just don't think he can be. And Holland was a little bit longer and just a little bit better and landed that lovely shot. And I think it was, I think the finish was good as well in terms of the referee. I think he stepped in at the right time. I think the referees had a great night. There was a lot of good stoppages on this card, but you
could even see on Big Dan's face in the replay that like he had no doubt. He was just like smiling, being like, "No, mate." Like when Santiago was complaining, he's like, "No, you were face down, getting punched in the face. Like you woke up now." But you could see that he had no doubt that he made the right decision, and I completely agree with the decision. You're lying face down, eating punches, like it's clear as day. Stoppage.
And he gave him the opportunity too, and he took a couple of shots and he wasn't moving. So, what do you think of the fight overall? Like, it was a good fight. Like, it wasn't a bad fight at all, but like, I don't think these two.
Ponzinibbio's always been a little bit one-dimensional in ways, and he does seem to have lost a step through injuries, as you said. A bit when you're waiting for those moments to land that big explosive shot, and you lose a bit of that. It does seem like it's kind of passed him by, and he's on the past his peak and on the decline. But he's still very, very dangerous. You know, if you make a mistake on the feet against Ponzinibbio, he will crack you hard. So he's by no means finished, but I think at the very top level, I don't think he's going to make it there.
Yeah, indeed. Christian Rodriguez and Raul Rosas Jr. then. Look, there was 2 fights like this. The obviously Raul Rosas Jr. and in the opening fight as well of the night between Jacqueline Amorim and Sam Hughes, where look, it's funny because myself and Harry actually did a speaker's corner about this week, talking about like younger fighters and the development of fighters and all of that. If you're not signed up to Patreon, please do, and we spoke like for 45 minutes about that. And after the last fight where Raul Rosas won, I remember we came on the podcast and we were talking about it, and I remember saying like, yeah, he looked good and he won and all, but like, you're 18 years old, you're 7 fights into your career as he was at the time. It's like, the UFC is not the place to be, because they are not development people. Right? Ian Dean is a development person. The people over maybe LFA or wherever it might be, they are the people that develop the fighters and send them to the UFC. Like, look at the way Paul Hughes has been developed. Look at the way Ian Gary was developed. Look at the way Nathaniel Wood was developed and other people like that, to go and improve and get to a level and then move to the UFC. Raul Rosas does not have that. He was obviously a talented guy thrown in there, and now he beat a guy and they're like, right, let's move him up a level, and he's fighting fucking Christian Rodriguez, who is very good. Now, people probably saying, what are you talking about, John? You picked Rosas to win now. That's because I believe Rosas is good. I believe he's very good. But this is what happens with young fighters. And this did not need to happen. Like, he could have taken a loss outside of the UFC, just as Andy could come up against someone good. Yeah, absolutely grand. But also, you can work back from that loss outside of the UFC. Like, if he gets another loss in his next fight, he's on the verge of getting fucking thrown out of the UFC, and then that's a massive hit to your confidence, and it could fucking be detrimental to you.
I think, going into the fight, I actually thought he'd probably win a close decision. He'd probably, his wrestling would probably be enough, but the desperation with which he was going for everything, and even the strain on his face when he was trying to use, it seemed like to me like he was trying to use like strength in places where he should be using technique and, things like that. And, they're not going to get away with that, especially when, you're fighting grown-ass men who've experienced and who've been in there with other, good guys. And obviously it was a much worse performance than I expected, even though I expected it to be a difficult fight for him. And as you said, that's to be expected when you're this young in the game. Like, he'd only had 7 fights before this. That's his 8th fight, and maybe I think before I compared it to Max Holloway when he came into the UFC and he wasn't ready, but you could see that there was a really good fighter in there. But with Raul Rosas, I think the jury's still out if there is like a really good fighter in there.
Of course it's still out. How couldn't it be still out?
But people seem to be already on the train. There seem to be like a lot of hype around this, and that's difficult to take as well as a young guy who's kind of just all of a sudden you're this kind of the big pops and people talking about you and the youngest fighter this and all this pressure on you, and you're going in there the biggest fight of your life, expected to even me, I think did you pick him as well? I think most people picked him anyway to win this fight, and obviously he's back down to reality now. He's got a lot of things to go back and work on. Like, he didn't get knocked out. He didn't get, choked unconscious or anything like that. He can go straight back into the gym and work on this stuff and, improve, like he should be doing at this age, and, not with all this pressure and big spots on pay-per-view main cards and things like that. And yeah, obviously being in the UFC he's offered the UFC, he's gonna take it. But I think the UFC matchmaker should have, picked his matches much better than they have, and maybe they will now. Maybe they see, okay, well, he's nowhere near where we thought he was. Maybe they thought he was at a completely different level than he is, and they will do this going forward. And I think if they need to, because if they don't, he could be, Sage Norwood, he could be forgotten about completely in a few years with the wrong matchmaking.
100%. And I'll tell you what, Christian Rodriguez is a very good prospect. He looks very, very, very good fighter. Like the way like Rosas is a very good wrestler, and the way he defended that. Great
composure. Like the difference in composure levels in that fight was ridiculous. Like.
And I think you've explained it well there, but just to maybe say it again, we're not writing off Rosas Jr. I'm not writing off Amorim either. Like, they could become very good fighters. Like we talked about, stick
18-year-old Adesanya in there. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Like we thought. It's funny, right? If you think about him, we were talking on the previous show, and I kind of, it's funny, we talked about this multiple times coming up to it. It's like we almost we had a premonition about this happening, because it's almost bound to happen when this fucking situation occurs. Like, it's like you know, we talked about that judge a few weeks ago, and he'd only judged one fight ever, and they put him in there to fucking main event. He's on a pay-per-view main card. Like, the level of nerves and all for a guy 18 years of age, only 7 fights into his career, it's insane. Like, it's absolutely insane. And it's not to say he couldn't be the best fighter in the world. It's not to say he will be the best fighter in the world either. We don't know. You need, like, development is so fucking important. Like, it's unbelievably important. You know, I mentioned on the previous show, you know, there are some guys like Wayne Rooney, right? They come through and they're 16 years of age, and when he was 16 years of age, he was one of the best players, and he was the best player in his team in Everton. He was one of the best players in the league already, and by the time he was 18, he was right up there, right? And then you have some other players, like, say, like a Mo Salah, right? Who's a very, very, very good player, but he doesn't become, let's say, a great player until he goes to Liverpool, or maybe, who was he with before that over in Italy for, you know, until he's maybe 25, 26. That some people develop differently, but the Wayne Rooneys are way more rare than the Mo Salahs, you know? It's almost always, you need that large, long development to become the best. Like, John Jones is John Jones because he's John Jones. John Jones is what? He's 35 years of age now. He's still the youngest champion of all time. That record has still been there for, like, what is it, 11, 12 years in a sport that's getting younger and younger and younger all the time, because the amount of knowledge that's out there can be imparted by people a lot more onto the younger people, because the best practices have been being used for a longer period of time. Like, let's say when John Jones was starting, you know, the Jackson Winklejohn gym was very good, but they were using maybe and let's say they had you know, a few old fighters training John Jones that came from maybe the Chuck Liddell era or whatever. Like, that's almost a completely different sport to the John Jones
Rashad
era.
Evans was training with John Jones.
Yeah, but he was maybe closer. Like, but let's say a guy from like 10 years before that. Whereas a guy from 10 years ago now, let's say Rashad Evans, he can teach the guys now a lot of things. Look at Mike Brown, the amount he's teaching guys right now. The sport has obviously evolved an awful lot, but the knowledge of those fighters is way easier imparted at the level we are fighting at right now. Yet still, John Jones's record hasn't been broken. It still hasn't been broken. Now, like, think to yourself, why not? Think to yourself, why hasn't it been broken yet? And do you know what? It will be broken in the next couple of years, because of Wayne Rooney will happen.
When John Jones came along, it's kind of obvious that this is something phenomenal straight away. Yeah. You know, you're like, this kid is just, it's easy for him, you know. He's just dominating these veterans who've, you know, experience against top guys and, you know, gone to close decisions in big fights and things like that, and he's just out there making it look easy. And, you know, it's easy to get carried away, and you can see people buying into stories and things like that. But the problem with matchmaking like this is, if he does win this fight, then where do you have to go? You have to go to an even more difficult opponent. And if he does lose, then, you know, yeah, why did you put him in this fight? And, you know, even though we only lost the decision, I think it was like a performance that, you know, shows that you just need so much work at this age. No matter how talented you are, unless it's just a once in a lifetime, like John Jones, and even John Jones at 18, you know, it probably would have been a different story if he had been in there at that age as well. So yeah, it's you know, as you said a minute ago, I don't mean to be like, you know, crapping on Rosa or anything. It's not his fault. It's just kind of bad matchmaking. We've talked about this like at nausea nearly, like, you know. But the matchmaking is just bad, and it can really damage a promising career in Rosa's or in other fighters of similar ilk. 100%.
Could not agree more. Let's move on. As I said, if you want more of that chat, myself and Harry, funnily enough, I think we actually mentioned Rosas Jr. in the chat as well, that we recorded it maybe 10 days ago or something, but it just came out last Thursday, and if you sign up for Patreon now, you can hear that. So Kelvin Gastelum looked brilliant here against Chris Curtis. Looked very, very good. I was sure that he couldn't keep up that pace he fought in the first round, but he did look good. Curtis fought well as well. It was, I don't know if it won fight of the night, but to me it was fight of the night. A very, very good win for Kelvin Gastelum, and he needed it, so he will move on and probably fight someone of note in that division again after this.
Yeah, I don't think he could keep up the pace. I think he kind of, in the third round, Curtis kind of maybe won that round, and kind of took over a little bit. And maybe if it had gone longer, obviously Gastelum wouldn't have been as hard on the pace if it had been a longer fight. So, but yeah, a really good performance from him. He got him involved in a few wild exchanges where maybe he put himself at risk, but he got away with it. And it's good to see him back. It's good to see him looking good again. Obviously he's had his ups and downs, and I'd like to see. I'd love to have seen where he could have got to if he had kind of stayed in shape more and maybe been a bit more dedicated, because you could see straight from the Ultimate Fighter that he had a lot of talent, a lot of raw talent. I don't think he has, or has yet anyway, risen to the potential. But he does show glimpses of it sometimes, and in this fight he did show glimpses of brilliance as well. But it's kind of a case of what could have been.
100%. And it's weird because when he came through in the Ultimate Fighter, I think a lot of people probably thought the opposite. This lad will never be anything. But then we saw his performance, and he's really talented, because he's a good defensive wrestler, he's a good offensive wrestler, he's a good boxer, he's power. Gastelum kind of has it on. Maybe the athleticism and he's actually pretty athletic. He just doesn't look it, maybe. But I think middleweight has always been tough for him. If he could have kept making that weight. But is that about the professionalism as well and things? I think his body type is kind of weird, maybe not as well suited for MMA, because he probably should be fighting down. But then he's, it's a tough one. But yeah, look, a great win for him anyway.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there's some other underlying reason why he couldn't be at welterweight. But yeah, we've seen him in the past come in, you kind of hesitate to make a Gastelum fight pick until you see him on the scale.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't look amazing here either, though. But he was in good cardio shape. We have to give him that. So a very good performance. We'll move on. The 215 pounds women fights were both split decisions and both very close, and not bad fights at all. Lupi Godinez beat Cindy Cavillo. Luana Pinheiro beat Michelle Waterson Gomez. I agreed with the Godinez one. I maybe would have gone for Waterson Gomez, but they were both tosses of coins. They were not bad fights. Didn't Joe Pyfer, this Joe Pyfer guy looks very good at 185. And we always say at 185 when someone has a good performance, it's great, because the division is so poor. So he's going to move on now, and maybe him versus Chris Curtis next. Chris Curtis just lost but had a pretty good performance, but maybe that would be the fight to make next. I would like to see that. Ignacio Bahamundes beat Trey Ogden. Steve Garcia, brilliant comeback here by him. Nurden almost KO'd him. He ended round one well, and then he came back with a right hand body kick and then a body punch, finished Nurden very good there. And then Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes, Amarim is a 5-time jiu-jitsu world champion or something, so we know what happened there. She tried to pull guard and submit herself and didn't, and lost. But did you see Sam Hughes afterwards said her husband put $1,000 on her to win the fight, and she was like, you better give me some of that money. And I'm like, oh my god, Sam, what are you doing here?
Oh my god. What was it, 2 months ago, this whole drama with the betting scandal? I don't know why you would possibly say that. That's just
everyone's like, whoa, Sam, whoa.
Self-snitching, as they call it.
Yeah, very bad. Right, the PFL had a card in. We'll run through this pretty quickly. It was not a bad card. I think it was better than their card from the week before. Larissa Pacheco and Julia Budd had a very good fight, a close enough fight as well. Budd did way better than a lot of people were thinking, but Pacheco did get the win and moves on with her 3 points. Bruno Capelloza got revenge on Matthias Scheffel, who beat him last year. He knocked him out with a lovely shot in the first round. Big upset then. Elena Kolesnik beat Aspen Ladd by majority decision. I thought she deserved it as well. She got obviously 2 of the cards, and 1 card was a draw. Baggio Ali Walsh, you know him, Graeme. He is Muhammad Ali's grandson. He got an amateur
fight. He went 3-1 as an amateur. Yeah, he's strange having an amateur fight there, but it seems like they're gonna match make him like the UFC didn't match make Rosa.
Indeed, I like PFL up for a bit of fun though, which I'm happy enough with. I think that was Kuniev beat Ferreira. Then we kind of, if you know Kuniev, you know how that went. Took him down, wrestled him, and beat him. Maurice Green put on maybe the performance of his career, looked very good. Got a finish over Marcelo Nunes. And I was kind of thinking with this, right? Maurice Green, noted John Jones' training partner. The fact that John Jones was actually in camp probably helped Maurice Green a lot with his game, so that's why maybe he looks so good. So credit to John Jones on that one. Jorgen de Castro got beaten by Danilo Marquez. Good performance by him on short notice. And my girl Amanda Leibrook fighting out of the Diaz team, the scrap pack, got a beautiful
vicious head kick.
Probably the knockout of the weekend, maybe. Well, Izzy, obviously, but maybe aside from that. Although even up there with that was a very good knockout. Lovely stuff there. And then Evelyn Martin's got a win, and Marina Mokhachina as well got a win. There are a few cards next week as well. We have the PFL's third card. We have Cage Warriors. And we also have UFC. In the UFC, we have Holloway versus Allen, which is a tremendous fight. There isn't loads underneath it, if we're being honest. Barboza and Corntillo is not a bad fight, but probably not moving much forward. We've Murkazanov 12-0 fighting Dustin Jacoby at 205, so maybe he's a good prospect coming through. And then we've Clay Guida on the card, and Royval versus Nicolau. That's a massive fight at 125, to be fair, but yeah, outside of that, not anything massive. What do you think of this Arnold Allen versus Max Holloway fight, Graeme? It's a massive fight, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a big fight. You know, obviously, this is a big opportunity that Arnold Allen's been waiting a long time for, but Max Holloway is a very difficult matchup for him, I think. You know, in terms of striking power, I think Allen has technique and the flow. I think Max Holloway might put on a bit of a clinic here. Like, I'd like to see Arnold Allen do it, and I think he definitely has a chance early. But as the fight goes on, I think Max Holloway better than fight. But I hope I'm wrong in a way. You know, for the division. And
that's a massive thing for the division, really, isn't it? Because like if Max Holloway wins this, we're left at a place where like, oh, we have a guy who we really like don't want there, which sounds bad, but like he's fought the champion so many times, it's weird. But still, we have the interim championship match coming up, or the unification championship match coming up, should I say? So it will be another bit of time. But what a fight! Massive fight for Arnold Allen. In terms of if he wins this, he has to be next. Like he just has to. There's no denying him. 19-1. If he goes to 20-1 and beats Max Holloway, he just has to be it. But like I think. Look, we'll have the preview shown on the lads, and we'll break it down in detail. I just think Arnold Allen has to make this a strength matchup. Like he is one of the strongest guys in this division. I think he needs to push Holloway against the cage. I think he needs to drag him down, hold him against the cage, make it a dirty, sweaty, drag out fight. Don't let Max Holloway get his boxing away. And if you do get into a boxing match with him, fucking make him pay. Hit him hard as you possibly can. And for Holloway then, look, push Arnold Allen back. Land all the shots you can. You know, if he comes towards you, jab him up and use your extra speed to win that fight. It's you know, it's a fight I don't think can disappoint, honestly. I really don't think this fight can disappoint, because the way both guys win,
put the curse on it.
Don't do it to me again. The way both guys win is, you know, by fucking putting it all out there, kind of, or dominating almost. I think
it's been a long time. Has Max Holloway ever been in a boring fight?
Very rarely. Anyway, very rarely. So I can't wait for that one. It should be very, 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 very fun. The PFL cards is not a bad one either. The welterweights are getting started, as are the 155ers. Sadabusi, Salawi, Magomed Kerimov is back here. Nathan Shulton, Stevie Ray, Haush Maffeo, and Alex Martinez. That should be a very good fight. Did they fight last year? I think they might have. But you also have Burgos versus Aubin Mercier, which is a big fight over there. Clay Collard is at 155 this year as well. Umalatov is back. He's fighting Danilo Taylor. So there's a lot of fun fights on that card as well. And then we have Cage Warriors. I'll have a full preview with Brad over in Sherdog this week. But the main fight on it, I don't know if you know this Jan Lice, Graeme. He's fighting George Hardwick, but this guy is a fucking beast. He's 9-1, and 6 of his wins have been by submission, if I'm not mistaken. But he is a really, really, really good striker. Throws these big high kicks. Is a very well-rounded fighter, and that is going to be That's a barn burner of a fight.
Only
there.
losses to Magomed.
Yeah, one of the best wrestlers in the world. And even then, he stopped a lot of his takedowns and things as well. So, yeah, that's a very interesting fight. Chris Bungard is on that card as well. One of my top prospects. If you're watching now, if you're looking for prospects, one of my top prospects in the world, James Power. He's 4-0. He's fighting Lucas Capera on this. A big step up for Lucas Capera. But in the end, as I said earlier on, you trust him. He knows what he's doing. And there's a legend.
A big step up in Capera, you mean, not for, yeah.
Yeah, in Capera, yeah. Flaminas versus Mantekivi as well. That should be an absolute barn burner. So yeah, there's some good stuff on this. So yeah, check that out. Before we go, Graeme, I know myself and Ian kind of spoke about the UFC WWE thing, but we would be probably remiss not to mention it here again. It was such a big story, and I think it was probably a bigger story for WWE media or wrestling media than it was maybe for MMA media, because like I were kind of thinking, well, nothing has really changed in MMA, but it really has. Like, the UFC has become a new company. It's literally called Nuco at the moment. Will be trading on the stock exchange as TKO. And if people don't know, it's now the UFC and WWE are one company. They have been amalgamated for the purposes of the stock exchange and businesses and all of that as entities, I suppose, as sporting or entertainment entities. They will obviously still be separate. There may be a bit of crossover with promotion, and maybe even a few, lads going to from WWE or from UFC to WWE, and possibly vice versa with Brock Lesnar maybe, or Ronda Rousey, unlikely as it may seem. Maybe we could see that, but I think it's just very interesting. Like, Vince McMahon is now Dana White's boss, is another thing that's come out of this, which is mad. Like, you have Dana White.
Just before you go on, did you see the awkwardness of villain mustache Vince McMahon and Ari Emanuel oh my god, Ari Emanuel was trying to banter with him, and then just Vince was just no selling it.
Kept saying he was going to body slam him and all. Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, I think isn't it weird? We went through we've gone through a lot in the world in the last few years, and I feel like people getting cancelled and all of this. Yet we have now the biggest sporting conglomerate in the world, probably having one guy who was recently retired, if we want to put it that way, for paying off women he had affairs with, and another guy who slapped his wife. And now they're both kind of a big part of this new company. It's just crazy to me. And also with Dana White, he was like saying, will there be, remember people were asking, will there be any retributions for that? And he was like, well, the retribution I will have is the deals that are going to happen in the future and how I'm going to have to get through them and live with it. And like,
having to live with himself, wasn't it?
Having to live with himself, but also like how people will deal with him and stuff. It's like, well, that didn't work out too badly for you, did it, you fucking prick? It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. But anyway,
like, what do you think? Do you think we're going to notice a difference, in the next coming months or a couple of years, or do you think they're going to keep it separate, or like maybe it's in terms of selling TV deals, in terms of production and things like that more, or do you think they're going to go and try to, mix things together at times? For me, I don't know, like what that would look like or whatever, but it seems like I'd prefer things to say as they are, like change is bad or whatever. Maybe I'm just in that category now, but yeah, for me, I kind of hope they stay separate. I don't know about you. I don't know what you think will happen. You're probably more clued in about what's been going on the WWE side anyway.
Yeah, so I think we should be worried, but not worried for maybe the reasons which you alluded there. Like, I don't think we should be worried about Kevin Holland coming out with a steel chair when Masvidal wins or anything like that. I don't think we should be worried about having WWE promos on the UFC or anything. Now, actually, maybe there could be a bit of that, but if there is any of that, it'll probably be promotion.
For you who likes WWE, that's probably fine, but for people who don't, it'll probably, oh my god,
nothing that will matter. Like the sport, when they close the cage, I think the sport will pretty much be the same. The big issue I think will that will affect MMA and WWE as well. It's the same issue that we have been living with, and we have discussed actually very recently about the UFC post Endeavor takeover. Right, so when the Fertitta brothers sold it, what has happened to the UFC since then? Like you spoke earlier there, Graeme, about the matchmaking. Joe Silva left, and the matchmaking has gone downhill a lot. We have so many events now with so many fights that we don't care about. They found a way with this Dana White Contender Series to pay fighters less. They're not signing the likes of Kayla Harrison, AJ McKee, not re-signing Nathan Diaz.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Lorenzo was a fight fan who went out of his way to try and make fights happen for like more than he would probably pay if he was strictly doing it as a business decision. He wanted to see these fights. Sometimes he offered money that maybe, Ari Emanuel and a conglomerate wouldn't ever offer because it doesn't make
100%,
financial sense. But yeah, hopefully we don't lose that because it'll turn into boxing maybe not to the same extent as boxing, but we don't want that.
No, indeed we don't, but that's the way it's been going for the last one, and this is going to make it worse, I think, because remember when Endeavour took over, loads of Chuck Liddell got fired, loads of people in the office got fired, they amalgamated a lot of the business with the business they already have. Now they're going to do that, I'd say fivefold with the WWE, because if you think about it, the WWE and the UFC are very similar businesses out, all the way through, apart from one's real and one's fake. Like, you have a lot of people making promos for the fights that are coming up. Like, let's say you have 30 people working on UFC promos and 30 people working on WWE promos. You don't need 60 people to do that job if you amalgamate them. You can probably get rid of 15 or 20 of them. If you have a person making, posters for the WWE and posters for the UFC, you don't need two teams to do that. Maybe one team will do. And that's, just obviously examples, but like that can happen in loads of different areas, which can make the smooth running of it stop, or it can change things in a way we don't like. And I think that is going to be a problem that kind of seeps in little by little by little, like we have seen since Endeavour took over the UFC. And like, if you think about the UFC now, anyone who's watching the UFC for like the last 10 years, it's probably like a way less enjoyable product now than it's ever been. Like, the commentary is pretty bad. There are so many fights with no jeopardy that we don't care about. There are so many missable cards. Like, even let's say next week, if you miss that card, it's like, well, do you know what? I'll wake up on Sunday morning, I'll watch Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen with a breakfast roll, and I'll go about my day. Do I need to see the rest of it? Not really. Like last night, I'll watch Adesanya and Pereira. I might watch Burns versus Masvidal. Do I need to see the rest of it? Not really, And that's the way it's. MMA, the UFC has gone that way, and it will go even more that way now. But because you know why? They need to make more money. This is now 100% solely a money-making endeavour. And if they can sack one person to save 500 quid a week, they will do it. They absolutely will do it. If they cannot sign someone to not overpay, to put someone else in there who is less exciting, they will do it. They absolutely will do it. And that is crushing for the top level of MMA. Like, it really is. We all would love to see AJ McKee in MMA or in the UFC. We all would love to see it. We all would love to see. Now, Francis is a bit of a different one, but like, we all would love to see Francis fighting. Would Frank have made that happen, as Conor famously once said, or would Lorenzo have made that happen? They probably would have, but they're not now. They're not going to go over and above. They don't need it, because with this as well, right? The WWE and the UFC are going to be in competition, because the WWE value was, I think, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, about 9 billion, I believe, and the UFC was 12 billion, right? So the UFC, WWE are going to rise that value, and they're together, they're 21 billion, but the UFC was bought for 4 billion a few years ago from Endeavour, and now its value has tripled. The UFC are going to need to prove that value is correct by the amount of money they make. And now they're on the stock exchange as well. They're going to be able to buy, into the UFC. You can already do that with the WWE and all. They're going to have to meet their shareholders, meet their wishes, meet the demands, meet the amount of money you have to make. And how do you do that? Like, you don't do that by overpaying a guy, 100 grand to make a fight, or $1 million to make a fight, or whatever. It's not good.
I'm thinking, I don't know, it's going to be completely wrong. I think the power is in the TV deals, and if the networks are kind of playing off, we have this other kind of live sporting entertainment show. This is what we're paying them. This is what we're going to pay you. Maybe having both of them put the Endeavour or whatever the new Endeavour.
Oh, massively, yeah. Gives them
puts them in a position
power.
where they have so much power now on, live sporting events like the Premier League soccer, not cheap, costs a lot to stream that. So, the only thing that I say this before, but the only thing a lot of people in big numbers will sit down and watch live is sporting events. You can stream back or whatever, or you can record on your DVR or your Sky Plus or your Virgin Media box or whatever. You can download all that stuff, but with sporting events, it's not the same unless you're watching it live, and it just puts them in such a strong position that maybe that's a big part of why they've decided to do this.
Absolutely, and that money is going to be in the shareholders' hands. It's going to be in Ari Emanuel's hands. It's going to be in Vince McMahon's hands and pocket, and his children down the years and all. It's not going to be in Joe Pfeiffer's pocket. It's not going to be in Raul Rosas' pocket, or even Conor McGregor or John Jones. Like, it's not going to be there. That they're not the ones who make money out of this. The people coming off of Dana White Contender Series are going to be earning less now than the people coming into the UFC 3 or 4 years ago. It's gone from 12-12 to 10-10 now. That's what this is. This is just an absolute money grab. Like, they're doing this to make that business as profitable as godly possible, and that is their only aim. Like, you look at the value they've put on it, and that is clear that that's their only aim, right? That's not good for us. That's not good for the sport we love. That's not good for the fighters we want to see taken care of at all. Is it good for the longevity of the UFC and the WWE? Absolutely. Is it great if they want to maybe sell it in a few years for a lot of money? Absolutely, yeah. Is it good for the amount of money they can get for a TV deal? Absolutely. They're going to be earning money hand over fist through this. But it's not good for the fighters. It's not good for anyone.
Yeah, and there's obviously the Saudi connection there with WWE
which is very interesting,
and
because Ari Emanuel had connections with Saudi, but when the Jamal Khashoggi thing happened, obviously, where he was murdered by MBS, basically, the Saudi crown prince, if I'm not mistaken.
Allegedly.
I don't think it was allegedly. But anyway, maybe. Well, let's not join an allegedly there. And his body was cut to pieces and all of that. Ari Emanuel actually pulled out of all of his business with Saudi. But they have, WWE in Saudi, they have, I think, a reported 50 million deal per year with Saudi to put on a couple of events there. Now, will Ari Emanuel, and that's going on for another few years. Maybe Ari Emanuel will say, right, we have signed a deal, we're going to have to keep it for a few years. Once that ends, I no longer want to do business with Saudi. Or else he'll say, well, you know what?
Is it even in his hands anymore with this?
Oh,
thing?
It is. He is the boss. Everything is in his hands now. He owns the world. He's got the whole world in his hands. What could happen now is like, well, look, I'm friends with him again, and now you could see the UFC doing 2 or 3 events in Saudi per year for their big 50 million, which will not go into the fighters' pockets, which will go straight into the coffers of Nuco with their 21 billion, valuation down on their head. That's what this is. I make no mistake about that whatsoever. So, look, it's. Yeah, I don't think, look, as a fight fan, I don't think much will actually change for us watching it, to be honest, except it will just continue the trajectory of getting slightly worse all the time as it has been. But look, things happen in MMA. Will we leave it there, Graeme?
Did we mention Donald Trump was sitting beside Dana White?
Just to get that in there. Yeah, I was sitting beside, what's your man's name? That fucking singer. What's his fucking Kid Rock? It was like traveling back to 1996 with fucking Dana White, Donald Trump, Kid Rock, and Mike Tyson. Like the celebrities from fucking 30 years ago were all there. Like, fucking hell. Donald Trump not in jail, no? I thought he got arrested. How'd he get out to watch the fucking UFC? Although, isn't being in jail and then going to the UFC kind of... That's kind of... They go hand in hand, don't they? So, look, these things happen. Anyway, Graeme, we leave it there. That's enough. That's our politics talk for the year done and dusted. So, we leave it. Thanks everyone for listening. Patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. If anyone knows anyone in YouTube, please let us know, because our YouTube has been demonetized and it's look like we fucking might lose anything we make from the channel, which is absolutely devastating for us. So if anyone knows, let us know. But yeah, other than that, follow along. The Old Triangle will be out this week as well. Follow everything on Patreon. Graeme, see us out with an old quote.
Tweeter and the Monkey Man were hard up for cash. They stayed up all night selling cocaine and hash to an undercover cop who had a sister named Jan. For reasons unexplained, she loved the monkey man.
We'll see you next Tuesday or Sunday, probably. Good luck.